Welcome to the Live Big, Find Your Magic podcast. I'm your host, Anna Gray. I'm a nurse by day, but have built multiple businesses on the side over the last 11 years. The best thing about the last 11 years are the relationships that I've developed and the people I've met. I created this podcast because I felt their stories needed to be heard. You need to hear who they are and how they find magic in their life. Let's listen in. Hey guys, welcome to the Live Big, Find Your Magic podcast, where today I am talking to my friend, Karen Schaible. And Karen, thank you for being on the podcast and willing to share your story with my audience. I'm so glad to have you here.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Yay. Okay, so where I met Karen was in one of my Facebook groups. You'll find a trend in the beginning of all of these episodes is that there are a lot of people that I love to talk to that I met inside my own Facebook group. And Karen is one of them. And I've known her for a couple years now. And the great thing about social media is that, you're connected with someone and then life happens. We all have our own lives and we live our lives. And then you come back and reconnect. And so it's been a while, but we've reconnected and here we are chatting. And of course, we chatted before I clicked record so that we could catch up a bit. And that's what I love the most, obviously, is this connection with people that you wouldn't necessarily connect with if it weren't for social media. And here we are. So thank you again, Karen, for being here. And I'm looking forward for you to share your story. I'm going to ask you a few questions before we get started. Well, I guess we're getting started now. I'm going to ask you some questions that are the ice-breaking questions. There's no wrong answer, just so you know. Okay. And they're pretty easy to answer.
Okay.
But everybody has a different answer. And that's what I love about this. All right. So the first question for you is, do you believe everyone has a purpose in life? And there is no wrong or right answer?
I do. It's
okay.
You choose to follow that purpose, or do you choose to even see you have a purpose? So yes.
Have you always thought that?
No.
Okay. Expand on that.
When I was really struggling for many years in my life, I couldn't see any purpose in life, like being depressed and anxious. And I saw no positive in my life.
So what was the one thing that you realized that, okay, wait, I have a purpose. I have a purpose I need to pursue? Because I asked that question because there are a lot of people that I work with in the nursing field that would say that they probably thought their purpose was in nursing. And then years later, I don't really have a purpose. I will say for me, that was not my purpose when I went into nursing. I didn't feel like, oh, I'm going into nursing because I have a purpose. I really didn't think I had a purpose until one day I felt like, oh shoot, I think I have one. So for you, what was that moment where you're like, oh wait, I do have a purpose?
It was when I finally looked after myself. So I'm exactly like you. I was a nurse too. And I went into nursing. It was either I was going to be a teacher or a nurse. And back when everybody's like, oh, don't be a teacher, there's no jobs. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll be a nurse then. So it wasn't a purpose. It was, I was raised, you find a career and you do something. So, and I love working and helping with people. So I guess there is a bit of a purpose there, but I never looked at it as it's my purpose. I just did my job. And so I just kept doing my job, just doing it. And then I hit a rock bottom and I started looking after myself. And then I lost 100 pounds. I changed my whole life. I lost 100. I left an unhealthy marriage. I lost 100 pounds. And then life happens. And I ended up working at the bariatric clinic years later.
Yeah.
And I lost my weight, not from bariatric surgery. I
Right.
lost it by working on my inner self.
Right. Right.
And I
Right.
worked at that clinic and I watched my clients. I was case manager and I could see these clients having this extreme surgery, losing weight, but then a year post surgery, starting to gain it back or totally stalling out and not getting to their goal.
Right.
And I saw it was because they didn't work on like the root cause.
Yeah.
And in that, like, and then it was a struggle at work. There were things going on.
Yeah.
And I was like, what do I want to do with my life here?
Right. So there, boom.
Do
Yeah.
I want to be in this job where there's cranky nurses and like they were telling me like I had like my purpose in like I loved the bariatric clinic because I knew that you could make a change, like you could lose this weight. And so I was all in working with my clients. But the problem was I had my own thoughts on where they need to be working,
Right.
but the system was no, very little basic work on your root cause and let's get you to surgery. So the nurses I worked with kept saying, Karen, like stop putting so much effort in, stop working so hard. And I'm like, do I want to just like be nonchalant and just do my job? I'm like, yeah, no, that's not working for me. So that's when I started thinking outside the box, like what else can I do? I found it was actually, I ended up not going straight to weight loss for nurses as a coach. I opened a clinic. So it was a nutrition clinic. So it was a bricks and mortar building. It was a franchise. We gave meal plans and worked on. And then I'm like, no, this is all about the food again.
Right.
So after 2 years, I closed it down, did some coaching courses, and now this is where I'm at. And it is my purpose now.
Yeah.
So
I love it. You light up when you talk about it. I love that.
Yeah.
We're going to dig in a little bit more in your story later. Because I want you to share a little bit more about that, but that was exactly what I wanted to hear was that was like the pivotal moment where you're like, wait, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And you listen to your gut and you listen to what you really wanted to do and didn't just settle for what you were supposed to do or, the job. So I love that. Awesome. 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 Okay. Second question. And I'm going to narrow this down. What brings you joy, but most importantly, what brought you joy this week? One thing that brought you joy this week.
First is working with my clients. Like I love it because they're so desperate for making a change. So that and my grandchildren. I love my grandchildren. Like I have two and I talk to them and as much as I can. It's been a busy week, so I haven't had as much, but like that's my motivation and drive in life. Like I just want them to have the best life too. I'd love to help them out in their life as well and be there for them and be the best person for them. So yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Love it. All right. And then the third question is a little bit tricky, but it won't be for you, I don't think. All right. What is your favorite thing about human connection? Because I asked that question because clearly there is a human connection between the two of us. And that's why we're sitting here. And I just love human connection so much that I have to ask people what they love about it just to see if we're on the same page, which we usually are. So what do you love about human connection? It could be anything.
Yeah, no, to me, it's like knowing there's somebody else out there that's there for you, that understands you. And even if they don't, just to acknowledge even you, like we do need that acknowledgement in our life, like to go through life by yourself.
Yeah.
I could, don't get me wrong, but human connection just gives you that feeling of being there for the humankind and all that. Right. I don't know. That's a little.
I love that. That's actually a different answer than I've ever gotten. So, and it really hits home. So I totally agree with you on that human connection. We can live our lives independently and survive and be okay. But having someone there and having your back, and it could be anyone, it could be, even someone that you just recently meet and they, realize that you're important and they say, wow, you have a great life. And if that person didn't show up, you just be moseying along. But man, it makes a big difference. You get a little spring in your step when someone connects.
Yeah.
So
Like
yeah,
it
I love
gives
that
you
shit.
that, well, it gives you the motivation to
Yeah.
keep like that connecting, that like finding out who they are and they
Yeah.
find out who you are. And like that, like I actually, when you talk about somebody coming into your world, um I had this lady, the one that did my RTT, and she introduced me to this other nurse who works with nurses losing weight, same as I am.
Mm-hmm.
And we got talking and we connected. We're
Hmm.
so similar.
Yeah.
And it's that, just being there for each
Yeah.
other, having each
Yeah.
other back,
Yeah.
like you said. And if I'm having a question or a doubt or just need somebody to help me with my brain,
Mm-hmm.
you're there for me.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's
Yeah,
so
I
important.
love that. That's why that's why we're here. It's for that reason. It's just I don't know, it makes life exciting and easy. It's easy for us to talk because there is this connection. And yes, we both are nurses, but we didn't necessarily connect on that level first. But it's a great thing to, know that we get each other in that world as well. So okay, so that question was not that hard at all for you. So fabulous. Then you passed the test. You passed the 3-question test.
We can keep going then.
I know, right? We can keep going. All right. So what I would love for you to do is I'd love for you to go back and share as much of your story as you would like to share. I know your story is incredibly inspiring, and I know that it will be incredibly inspiring to my audience for many reasons. And we chatted a little bit about this before we started, and so go ahead and share kind of where your story starts. And of course, you don't have to go way back when, but where your story starts and how you ended up where you're at right now, and how you really find those magical moments, the joys in life through those ups and downs.
Okay. Well, it does start way back when, because
Okay.
that, like and so many things that we go through do start back when we're a child. And so I can't remember any more than from age 8 on. Like I don't remember, and that's okay. But I took on some meanings of things that my family, my dad and my mom, and it wasn't that they. So my dad was a Ukrainian farmer. Like he did work too, but they were the old, strict person, right? That's how he grew up. So if you're not listening or if you're talking back or whatever, you got the strap and the spoon. So my mom, like he's a really hard ass in some ways. And so sometimes he was hard on my mom. And my kind, caring soul, would speak up for her because she learned in her life, you don't speak up, right? You don't
Mhm.
do that. So I'm a pig-headed person, and I'm like, no, I see there's wrong and I'm going to speak up. And so then I got in trouble. I got the strap and the spoon. So there's nothing wrong with what he did per se, because that's all he knew. But I took the meaning on, there's something wrong with me. I'm not good enough. That's what I did. I didn't realize it. But that then fed into the rest of my life.
Mhm.
So I grew up again, I struggled in school, and it was because I didn't think I could do good enough. I couldn't do a good enough job in school. I'm like, it was that I felt so not good about myself, that I was so in my head that I didn't do things for me. So no wonder life was hard. So as I kept growing up, and then so when I got in trouble, my mom's a great cook. So to make me feel better, she'd give me food.
Mm.
So I grew up, you
Right.
feel not good, things are bad. And then even when things are good, but it was always around food.
Right.
So I grew up, I turned to food. Food was my friend.
Yeah.
And so growing up, I was really overweight. I was bullied. So again, you feel even worse about yourself,
Yeah.
and you keep yourself in a little bubble almost. I did have some friends, but yet I still held back because ashamed of yourself, embarrassed.
Mhm.
You didn't feel like you fit in because those friends of mine were skinny, right? And
Mhm.
I didn't feel like I fit in. And so it just kept, it's like a snowball effect. And then, I went to nursing school and I did struggle a bit in nursing school. And again, it just fed into my belief, oh,
Right.
Karen, you're not good enough. You don't do a good enough job. Oh, things are hard for you. And then I lost some weight in grade 12 because I'm like, I want to date. I want to date for grade 12. So I did the extreme diet. I lost 50 pounds in 6 weeks and I got a date, right?
Right.
But diets don't work. I didn't work on what's inside of me and gained it back. And so that was where my yo-yo dieting started. Even though when I was younger, my mom was always on me,
Mhm.
like watch what you eat, suck in your stomach. Like, so I was
Mm.
so fixated around how I looked and the
Right.
food. And so at 19, 20, this guy walked into my life and I didn't really even know him, but it was the first person that really, I only had like one or two other very, very brief dates in my life. And this guy walks in, gives me all the attention. So guess what? My brain was, I'll never find anybody else. And so after 6 months, he asked me to marry him.
Mhm.
But inside my soul, I knew he wasn't the right person for me. But my brain kept saying, you know what? Nobody else will ever want you. Here I am at 20, like, give me a break. Now I look back. But
Of course.
because of this snowball of how I felt so unworthy and no self confidence. And so married him. It was not a healthy marriage, a lot of emotional stuff from him that went on that fed into me even feeling worse and worse and worse. I had 3 kids. I had postpartum depression after the first one. So, like, it was just a snowball. I got depressed and anxious and had panic attacks. And at 42, I hit a rock bottom. Like, I physically wasn't well. I had a blood infection and I was mentally not well. I hardly could get out of bed. I dreaded doing anything. Like, I was so depressed.
Yeah.
And in that moment, I thought of taking my own life because I
Mhm.
thought, I can't live like this. I don't want to live like this anymore. And in that moment, like, I realized I can't do that to my children. Like, I had children because I just love children. And I knew I couldn't do that to them. And in that moment, I realized I got to find a whole other way. And and I talk about, like, I hope when I'm talking to your listeners, don't hit that rock bottom. Like, you don't have to hit that rock bottom. Pay attention and go, I want to do something different before I get to that point. But I did. But that, like, me getting sick and me having that was the universe's way of saying, pay attention.
Yeah.
Like, I do believe it was meant to be because my whole life changed in that moment. I started looking for what else I can do.
Mhm.
And I found a group coaching program and it worked on me. Like, it worked on myself, my beliefs about myself. And when I allowed myself to finally feel okay with who I am, have self confidence, have self esteem, my whole life changed. Like, that's how I left an unhealthy marriage that was 22 years. That's how I lost 100 pounds. It wasn't dieting. Like, I just had so much belief in I am good enough. I finally felt like I was good enough
Mhm.
because I was using food to help me try to feel better and good enough. But once I felt that, I didn't need the food to deal with that.
Mm. Mhm.
So
Mhm.
that's what I do with my nurses is we have to work on what's going on under the surface
Right.
that's keeping us depressed and anxious and stressed out. And, like, we were talking at the beginning
Mhm.
before we got on this call about busyness. I was a great people pleaser. I was great at doing my schedule. I had no minute for myself. I did everything for everybody else, and I never put any effort into myself because I didn't think I was worth it. And
Mhm.
then once I realized I am, and I took that time for myself, and I'm not saying, hours, it was like even 5 minutes and sitting down and getting what's out in my head on paper and challenging it. Like, that's not true. Like, let's pay attention here. then life changed. Like then it's that ripple effect, right? You start, like, I never understood. I don't know if you've probably heard this, like put your oxygen mask on
Yep.
first.
Yep.
I heard it intellectually, I got
Yeah.
it, but I couldn't register with it. Like
Right.
it didn't, I got it, but how do I do that? And then once I figured out how to do it, it's so true. When you look after yourself, then like you're such a better mom, you're
Yep.
such a better wife, you're such a better nurse.
Yep.
Like it was just, that's what like blew my mind away. I'm like, wow, like
Right.
I can't believe just that little bit of work that I did. And it was a 6-month program, but
Mhm.
those 6 months changed the way my life was going. And then I keep working on it. Like I work on myself every day. I write, I journal every day.
Right. How
So
long ago was that group coaching program that you went through?
13 years ago. So I lost 100
That's
pounds
amazing.
13 years ago and I've kept it off. I bounce 5 pounds here and
Sure.
there. Don't get me wrong, I'm not perfect. I get complacent once in a while, but I get it right back off again because I know exactly what to do. But yeah, I've kept it off and I left that marriage. I went through a divorce
Right.
and through all, it was not a good divorce. It was
Yeah.
very messy.
Mhm.
But through all of that, I still kept my weight off. And then I met a wonderful, wonderful man. So I got remarried as well.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
yeah, through life's ups and downs. So when you talked about the ups and downs, like,
Sure.
so I left nursing. That was the hardest thing, one of the hardest things I've ever done,
Yeah.
because it was like it's almost that identity. I became,
Yeah.
I'm a nurse, and then, well,
For
who am
sure.
I? And then I had a lot of things from my mother. Well, because their belief is you have a career, and
Yeah.
they didn't think doing what I was going to do was a career.
Yeah.
And so I had a lot of pushback from them. Why would you do that? And I had to, but because of all the work I did, I stood strong in my belief in myself that this is what I want to do.
Mhm.
But through all the ups and downs, that's what kept me going.
Right.
And like, no, this is my passion, this is my
Yeah.
belief.
Yeah.
And I have to keep reminding myself of that, because there are some days self-doubt comes
Oh, for
in,
sure.
you beat yourself up a
Yeah.
bit.
Sure.
But because of all the practice I've done, I
Yeah.
can bring myself out of it so much quicker.
Yeah. 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 Wow. That's so powerful. That's so powerful. I I'm like mesmerized by your story because I can relate to a lot of it in food is comfort and the ups and downs of that and the mindset and all of those things, but still being human.
Yeah.
So I know that there are a lot of people out there that can relate to your story and really find the inspiration in knowing that you can find your oxygen mask. So my question then is, for someone that's in that boat right now, they're super depressed at where they're at. They go, I can't believe where
Mhm.
I've landed. I understand that I need to work on the inside. What are my first steps? What do I do? What are my first steps to grabbing that oxygen mask for myself? What kind of easy, quick tips or steps could you give someone like that who is just starting and just like ready to say, I'm done with feeling like this. I need to take care of myself.
First step is stop beating yourself up. Stop. Like, we're so good at talking so terrible to ourselves. Then how do you feel when you talk terrible to yourself? Like, I know for me, I was the queen of beat yourself up. And then that's what the spiral was so much about too. Like, I was on major antidepressants, major anti-anxieties. I went to psychiatrists,
Yeah.
psychologists. Like, I looked at myself as not good at, like, that, not good enough. Beat yourself up. Like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Like, the first step in looking after yourself, getting that oxygen, that mask on yourself, is just be okay with who you are. Like,
Right.
talk, like I tell my clients, if you wouldn't talk that way to your best friend or to a child, stop talking that way to yourself. Like,
Yeah.
first thing ever. And how you do that is, so many of us, we do it so automatically because we've done it so often. Sorry, I hope you don't hear the dogs too badly. But we do it so often, it's automatic. Like, it's just what we do.
Yeah.
That's how we,
Yeah.
that's who we are. And how to do it is like writing out, like getting aware of what your brain is telling you, getting it on pen to paper. You gotta see it. When you get it out of your head and see it on paper, then you can go, wow, that isn't very nice. Like, why would I say that
Right.
to myself?
Right.
Yeah,
Right. Right.
yeah,
I totally believe that. I also think sometimes, I don't know, I think sometimes people have a hard time putting it to paper. They feel like it has to be some sort of way. So when you say, put it pen to paper, what would your tip to be to like get, okay, I'm looking, I have my pen, I have my, how do I get this out of my head? What would you say to someone that struggled, like, say, okay, I'm ready, but I just don't know how to do this. I don't know how to get it out of my head.
yeah. There's a few different ways. This is what I do is I just, like a dear diary, right? Like, this
Oh
is
yeah.
how my day went. This is
Yep.
like all this happened. And then as you write that way, then you start writing, like, why did I do this? Like, your
Mhm.
thoughts start coming out. Like, as you're just writing, what's in your brain comes out.
Yeah.
That's how I do it. But
Yeah.
if you're stuck, then you can, like, write, like, ask yourself a question, like, what did I think of my day today? How
Mm.
did I think my day went? How do I think I did? What went right? What
Yeah.
went wrong? Like, just asking yourself some prompting questions can
Yeah.
also help if you're really stuck.
Yeah.
And then that will get what you've been thinking out in your head, especially the question, what went right? What went wrong?
Right.
Like, those things will really help you see where.
Right. I think that's so easy. It's so easy to do and so powerful. I know that when I'm very consistent with journaling, um, it makes a world of difference. And then when I'm not consistent at journaling, I know that I'm not consistent at journaling because it's, the days are a little bit harder because you have all of that stuff in your head. And if it doesn't come out, you just continually pile it on, pile it on, pile it on to where you feel like you're drowning in it. And at least that's where I felt, is that you're drowning in it until you can get it out. And then once you get it out, it's like, oh my gosh, this is huge relief. And like you said, the next step though is really, like you said, being kind to yourself, because I think that we can put it out on paper, but what do we do with it? Right. And just that one simple act that you say, be kind to yourself, like be okay with the fact that that's what you're feeling, because that's what you're feeling, and you're human and there's nothing wrong with that, and you're perfect as you are. um I just love that so much. And it is so easy for people to do, but it's so hard because we just don't do it. And we just think that, oh, well, we don't have the time to sit down and write it out. Or, I mean, I know there are times where I have a piece of paper in my car. And sometimes if I get to work early, I'll just write it on a piece of paper again when I'm consistent, not all the time,
Yeah, yeah.
because there have been many of years where I stopped doing that. Um,
So, one quick thing in there.
yeah.
So, this is one of the other things. It is better to put it pen to paper. It really is. But if you are like busy, like always going, 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 what also I do if I don't have a piece of paper, my phone, I will hit record and I'll talk into it. And I'll say, this is what I'm thinking. Like, oh, this is what happened. This is what I'm thinking about it. I'll put it into my voice recorder. And the big reason is just to get it out of your head.
Yeah.
Because like you said, like, when all those thoughts are stuck in your head,
Mhm.
it's heavy. Those thoughts are
Mhm.
heavy. And those heavy thoughts, they just keep piling up and piling up. And that's why by the end of the day, so many of us end up escaping with food,
Yes.
because we're just looking for relief from our
Yes.
heaviness inside of us.
Amen. Amen to that.
So,
Yes,
yeah,
you're
so
absolutely right.
get it out. I don't care.
Yeah,
I mean, I do
yeah,
agree pen to paper is way better.
yeah.
But if you have to voice record it, I don't care what, grab it. Like you said, grab a scrap piece of paper. There is no perfect way to do it.
Right. It's
There's
not
no
like it's gonna go in a notebook
no,
and you're gonna laminate it or you're gonna put it up on the wall. It is literally to just get it out of your head,
yeah. Yeah,
right?
like you should see all the papers I have.
I know.
I have little sticky notes and little papers.
Yeah.
I've got
Yeah.
piles of papers,
Huge.
all my thoughts and ideas. And I'm like, it's just to get it out of
Yeah.
your head.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. And you can tell just the way you light up. It like you look like you don't have any of those thoughts in your head right now because you light up as a person. So imagine you're you're on the other side and you just wrote it all down how you're going to look and feel once you do, because you're a perfect example of that you feel very light, you feel, energized, you feel happy, you feel like you can take on the world. So I love, so okay, so I love this podcast for this reason. I didn't know where this is going to take us, but where we took this is something very, very simple that I think so many people can utilize and use in their daily life, whether they have a purpose or not. It's just as a human being who's just trying to get, especially nowadays, and getting through this pandemic and feeling, that we may have a lack of connection with people or that external feedback where we really do need to rely on ourselves more than we ever have. This is where we land. So I'm so glad that you shared just that little tiny bit of, getting your oxygen mask first, because that's exactly what you did. You started to look at yourself and really take care of yourself first in your mindset. And then what followed is this amazing weight loss journey that you've been able to keep off for so many years. And now you're helping other people do that. And it's not like it's just fly by night. It's not like, oh, you just lost 100 pounds last year and now you're ready to coach people. It's like, no, this is the life I live. And this is why I am so happy to be around, or to be around my grandkids and live this purpose. And what you had said, what brings you joy is your clients. I mean, the fact that you have, that inspiration to bring to your clients so that they can turn around and inspire you to just be there more. I can see it. And I appreciate you sharing that so much.
Thank you.
Do you have any other quick, tips on, finding those moments of joy when they may not find it? They feel like there's this big hill that they can't climb. And great, I can write all the things down and that will help. But like, one little, I don't know, what comes to you?
Absolutely, I know is so gratitude.
Okay.
Find one thing, at least one thing every day. And when I
Yeah.
first started this, I couldn't.
Mhm.
Mine was, I'm grateful for the bird outside. Like
Right.
I just, that's how I started. Because I'd never done this before.
Yes.
But it's so important because what we feed in our brain
Yeah.
is what we see more of.
Yes.
So, like as a nurse, like your day is stressful,
Yes.
you've got your load, and you're not staffed enough, and
Yes.
so our brain is focused on all these negatives. And it's not, those negatives aren't bad. That's the thing too, because we have to have 50% positive and negative, so don't make them bad.
Right.
But that's one of the things. But then it's like, okay, this is what's going on, but there's also this too.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to,
Mhm.
that's what really helps us see another perspective,
Yeah.
because we can get so locked in all the things
Absolutely.
going on.
Absolutely.
We have to, there are other ways in life, even though, like when I was going through stuff in my life, I'm depressed and at that point, and I'm like, there's no other perspective in this
Yeah,
life.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
this is the negative and it's
Right.
terrible. But there is always one little, at least minor little
Yep.
thing that we can look at to get our, and the more you keep focusing that way, then that's the more you'll think, because what you feed into your brain is what then comes out, what we do, what happens in our life. Our thoughts create our feelings, which drive our actions.
Sure. Absolutely.
So really start feeding your brain with the gratitude, thankfulness,
Finding one thing.
joyful moments in your life. Like tap into those. So when the moments are not feeling very good, tap into those moments, giving you some hope. And
I
I do,
love that so much.
I mean, my life isn't perfect. I still have my ups and downs.
Yeah.
But I don't get so consumed over them before. Like I used to get so consumed, like my whole day, I couldn't even think clearly because of this something going on. That's all I could think of. Now I can go, okay, this is happening, but there's also this other thing in life, this other way.
Yeah.
So
I love that. I actually tell my daughter that every day, is find one good thing every day. One good thing. I know sometimes it's hard. She's 15. Just find the one thing. And it could be as simple as, like the bird jumped, right in front of my window. But it makes a huge difference, because if you can just make that a game, I make it a game every day. You find one thing before you go to bed. You're like, okay, what was the one thing that was good? Because we do get all consumed with negativity, and we miss the good things, even though the good things happen and we may have recognized it for a second. We forget about it until we actually purposely say, okay, well, what was the one good thing?
Yeah.
So I'm so glad you said that. That's why I lit up, because I say that to my daughter every day. Like, okay, what was the one good thing? Find the one good thing, because that will keep you happy. It'll keep you with a smile on your face.
It is like, and the thing is, we have a choice. Like that was one thing I didn't realize in my old way of life, is I just thought this is just life. This is the way it is. But we have a choice. We have a choice to think that way. And it's like, not change what you're thinking, but okay, I'm thinking that way, but I can also think another way too. There is other perspectives as well, right? So it's really just starting to pay it. Like my bottom line is pay attention, get curious on what's going on in your brain.
Love it. That's one of my favorite words. It's curiosity.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm so grateful that you shared your story. I'm so grateful that you shared your words of wisdom. And, I cannot wait to share this with my audience. I cannot wait to share this actually with my healthcare staff friends. And because I think everybody needs to hear this, but especially, that group of my peers. So where can people find you, my dear? And I will make sure and put this in the show notes as well.
Yeah. So I'm my website, KarenSchaible.com. I'm on Instagram, Weight Loss for Nurses, on Facebook, Weight Loss for Nurses with Karen. So I'm out there putting my content. I have a podcast, Weight Loss for Nurses as well. I love it. Like your podcast. I love just getting on there and talking and giving advice, like not advice, giving value, like helping. And then I also have a group program coming up in 2 weeks. I'm going to start another group program. I did a group program a few years ago, and I've decided, no, it's time to get back doing it again. So I'm launching that in a couple of weeks. So if anybody, I'm taking only very limited amount because I just want to get it really well before I put a whole bunch more people in there. So anybody interested, reach out. But no, I'm out there. Even if nobody hired me, I'm putting out there as much as I can to stop the pain that we're going through. Like it can be shifted.
So needed. You're so needed. So needed.
Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you so much. So if you guys are watching this on YouTube, make sure and click subscribe so you can be notified for all new episodes. And if you're listening to this on any of the podcast platforms, please hit subscribe as well. And I would love for you to write a review. And I look forward to bringing you more interviews like Karen, I just love this so much. It fills my bucket, and I hope it fills your bucket as well. Thank you, Karen, so much again for doing this and sharing your wisdom and being a part of this. I really, really appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.